Hey everyone, it's Bear. It is Friday, April 16th, 2021. And I have not done a new video for like almost 9 months. I haven't done any sort of personal updates in a really, really long time. But I wanted to get back to making regular videos, and there's some exciting new news for trans people that want to get into the military. There's also really exciting news for trans people who are already in the military, but I know less about that because I came into the Air Force when I had already transitioned. So I did that in I applied in 2018 and I actually got in 2019. So my ship date to Air Force BMT was March 5th, 2019. So I just hit my 2 year mark in the service, which is kind of unbelievable given the amount of time that it took me to get in and how long I worked for this and so forth. Um, but this video isn't about that. Like I said, I wanted to get back to making regular videos, and there's now a really great opportunity to do that because there's a lot of trans people, post transition trans people, who are looking forward to a new policy coming in under the new administration. So, like I said, it's mid April right now. That policy is set to drop on May 1st. Um, Not sure exactly how that's going to look, but I'll get to that a little bit later. So, I put some feelers out. I'm like, hey, what do you guys need to know? Um, and there's a lot of questions about just the enlistment process, including talking to a recruiter and going through MEPS and then going through BMT. So I'm going to tackle things in that order. I will note that I'm coming at this from the trans male perspective. I do not know what the trans female experience is like. I don't know any trans women who have gone through the process post transition, so I can't speak to that. And then also, this is strictly from the Air Force point of view. So some things kind of overlap and then some things don't. So as far as the enlistment process and MEPS and so forth, there's going to be a lot of overlap. As far as basic training, there's going to be some, and then there's going to be some differences. So I'm coming at everything from that point of view. So that being said, the biggest question is how to approach a recruiter and what information do I need to take with me. So this is a matter of making a phone call. You can easily call a recruiter and say, I'm interested in enlisting. What do I need to bring with me? A lot of them are actually working from home right now, so they advise not doing a walk-in, but rather call and make an appointment. And when you call, they'll actually ask your phone number. If you're on a cell phone, they'll text you everything you need to know, and they will continue to give you updates via text. My recruiter did that, and it was really great. He would text me, hey, I need you to come in today and sign something, or whatever. He would give me updates more by phone because it's more professional, and he was a very professional person. But it was really great to have that text relationship. And I called someone earlier today to nail down a few details for this video, and he said exactly that. He said because of COVID, a lot of people are teleworking. There's not a lot of people walking into recruiting offices because of COVID, so they're not going in a lot of the time unless they have an appointment. So that's your first thing is call. And when you call, you can also ask them, what would you like me to bring with me? So basically, you're going to need a couple of things for that first interview. You're going to need your driver's license or a state-issued government ID. That can be a state ID or a passport, something like that. You're going to need some kind of official form of identification. Next, you're going to need your Social Security card. And if you're over 18, it does need to be signed. It should be an original. If you've lost your social in the past, you can get a replacement, but that is something you're going to want to have, and it takes time to get that. So if you don't have that now, go ahead and order a new one. You'll also need your birth certificate, and for trans people, if you've had your name changed, you're going to need your name change documents. So, and in fact, I'll take that back. In order to process and enlist as your new name and your new gender, that has to be finalized. That has to be legal. You can't go in as male, for instance, if you haven't already had your gender updated. You could go in with your birth name, but I don't see why you would want to. Why would you want to go through like as male, but with your female birth name or whatever? So you're going to need your birth certificate, your updated birth certificate, and you're going to need your name change documentation. Otherwise, when they start to do your background checks and stuff like that, they're going to get a red flag that you've had a name change, and you're going to have to provide that information anyway. So you might as well just have it. And then lastly, you're going to need your high school info. So that's not your transcripts and like your grades and stuff. That's some kind of document saying that you have graduated high school or the equivalent thereof. So that could be your diploma, or it could be a letter stating that you have graduated. So when I went in really late in life. I think I was 36 the first time I talked to a recruiter, and you couldn't pay me to find my high school like diploma at this point. So I just went to the school. I filled out a request for a document of graduation, and they wrote me a letter. Downside on that is it's going to have your birth name on it, but a lot of the information that you provide to the military is going to have that. You're not going to be able to hide that. So I don't know, get over it. Like, if your recruiter's professional at all, they're going to look at that. They're never going to say it to you. They're going to refer to you only as your preferred legal name. So that's what you need to bring with you. The first appointment is not really a formal thing yet. So a lot of people are worried about bringing like the kitchen sink with them. They're worried about bringing all their surgery notes, every document as far as like your traffic history, your legal history, your credit history. Those are all things that eventually you are going to need, but you don't necessarily need them the first interview. It's a job interview. It's a preliminary job interview. You're going to go in, they're there to do a pre-screen for you and answer your questions. The pre-screen, usually it's like a one-page thing. They're going to run through it with you. It's going to include things like allergies, including food allergies and allergies to like medications, insect stings, stuff like that. Asthma's a big one. They're going to ask you about things that may disqualify you from serving. So if you have a history of asthma or something that needs life-saving medication like diabetes, that's going to be a conversation that they're going to have with you. It's going to be a stopping point. They're there to pre-screen you and see if you are qualified to serve, right? So I remember that pre-screen, again, being allergies, medications, drug use, legal history, and like credit history. Not everything that's on that pre-screen is going to be something that they're just going to turn you away for. So if you've had a traffic violation, they're going to ask you about how that went down. I mean, if you were drunk driving, that's going to be a problem. But if you got pulled over for speeding, you declare it and you get a waiver for it. Same thing with like arrests. If you haven't had like a felony arrest, you're probably going to be good to go, but you want to disclose it. Be honest with your recruiter. If you've had some kind of credit history or legal history, talk to them about it. It's something that you're going to need to document and that you're going to need to get a waiver for, and that is totally normal. Don't be afraid of them saying like, oh, you'll need a waiver. Fine. That's part of their job, is to get you that waiver. So first interview, pre-screen, and then they're there to answer your questions. You know, do you have questions about pay grades or the different contracts that are available? They're there to talk to you about that at that time. And then if you're ready to move forward, they're going to want to schedule the ASVAB. The ASVAB is the Vocational Aptitude Battery. It's basically a placement test to see, are you really good at verbal and written communications, or are you really good mechanic? You know, are you really suited to do something more, you know, along the scientific or mathematic route, like finance or something like that? The ASVAB is there to determine that. It is there to determine what kind of job you will be well suited for. You don't have to sign for anything right away. You're going to make kind of like a dream sheet, and you're going to see what you qualify for. So that's what's going to happen during that first interview, right? It's not like the movies. The movies and TV shows portray it really unrealistically, where someone walks in, they hand a recruiter their documents, they say, I want to enlist, and then next scene, that character's getting on a bus and they're going to basic training. It does not work that way in real life. It is a process. Even for someone who is highly qualified, you're not going to leave the next day. I do know a couple of people who got in really quickly. What that meant was that they were just really qualified. They were young. They didn't have any kind of history. They didn't have any surgeries, medical history, legal history, or issues. They were young. They had nothing. So they went in and they qualified, and then they left a few weeks later. Yes, I do know someone that left 3 weeks 3 weeks after that initial interview. That's really not the norm, though. So don't be worried about that. And in fact, my biggest piece of advice was don't expect that. Biggest piece of advice, especially for trans people, is be patient. All right? Be patient for 2 reasons. One is that this new policy may not be an immediate thing for people who want to enlist. When I was getting ready to go through and enlist, the new policy was announced, and I was really devastated. It was Secretary of Defense Ash Carter at the time, and he announced starting, this year, we're going to start allowing people to transition who are already in the service. This was 2017, by the way. And then he said a year from now, in 2018, we're going to start taking new applicants. My timeline may be a little bit off. It might have been early 2017, late 2017. Either way, it was a year, and he announced it right then. Something I had been looking forward to hearing. I thought I was ready. My recruiter and I were already ready to submit my initial documents. And it was a year delay. It was a year. And then a year later, there was another delay. There's reasons for that. It's not important for this video. But the point is that my process took a really long time, and it may take a long time for you, and you have to be patient, and you have to be diligent, and you have to just not give up, be ready to be told no, and be ready to submit more paperwork. The other reason for me urging you to be patient is that this is going to be a new thing for many recruiters. Recruiters now weren't necessarily doing that job a couple of years ago when I got in. The policy was lifted for about 14 months from 2018 to 2019. And so the chance of getting a recruiter now who was doing the job then, who worked with a trans applicant, is pretty slim. There were very few of us that got through at that time. In fact, we think it's less than 10. So this is going to be a new thing for your recruiter. And your recruiter may be wrong when you first talk to them. They may say, no, you're not eligible, or they may say, I don't know. There are resources for you to get information to help your recruiter. Reach out to Sparta, all right? They can really help you with documents and with how to talk to somebody. But either way, it's going to be something that recruiter may not have the answers for you right away. So be patient with that person. Be diligent. Say, I have some documents. I'd like to show them to you. I have access to the new policy. I'd like to bring it in and show it to you. Be helpful. That looks good if you are willing to be patient and be helpful. And then the last thing that I would advise is while you're waiting for that initial interview, because they can't really schedule it for you yet until the new policy drops, go ahead and make some feeler out phone calls. This contradicts just slightly some of the advice that Sparta is officially giving. They're saying, wait, don't go in and talk to anybody yet. I'm giving the opposite advice because that's what I did and it really worked for me. And because you don't really know how you're going to feel about the first person that you talk to. Technically, they have to work with you. They can't just ignore you. But recruiters can be a little bit difficult. They're human beings just like everybody else. And so they may be a little uneasy about working with you, mostly because like you're just different from everybody else that's coming through. Um, or they may have a personal opinion that they are not allowed to subject you to, but they may just be a little bit uneasy. Make some feeler out phone calls before you walk in and talk to anybody. Just call up, say, "Hi, I'm a transgender person. I'm interested in enlisting, and I'm wondering if you'll be available to work with me when the new policy drops in a couple of months." See how they respond to you. If they give you a really cold response, or they say, "No, you're not eligible, call me back when you're eligible," and hang up on you, move on to the next person down the list. Find somebody that you feel comfortable with. My process was very similar to that. Again, I started by just making some phone calls. I started out with a 1-800 number because I saw it online, and I got like a call center, and the person gave me completely inaccurate information. He was like, "First of all, you're not eligible. Second of all, if you did want to try, you would have to go off of your hormones. You would have to enlist as your birth sex, go through basic training as your birth sex, and basically stay in the closet the whole time." And I was like, "Thank you very much. Have a good day." And I hung up and I moved on. I knew he was wrong. I wasn't going to argue with him. I talked to another recruiter who was kind of like along the lines of, "You're not eligible now, so it doesn't make sense for us to work together. Give me a call back when you're eligible." I never called that person back. I went down the list until I found my recruiter, who was fantastic. I spoke to him for the first time in 2016 when I heard rumors. It wasn't even confirmed yet. I heard rumors that the service was going to be opening up to transgender people. I gave him a call, and he was like, "I don't really know that much about it, but I'm interested in finding out more." And he asked me to come in for that initial interview and to bring those documents with me, and he did my pre-screen. And he called his leadership before that interview, and he asked them about what the new policy might be, when it might be coming out. And then we waited and we got stuff ready over the course of the next 2 years. I talked to him in early 2016. We didn't submit my first package until the policy changed officially in January of 2018. And then it took me 11 months to get cleared to go to MEPS. All right, so it took a long time, and he was diligent, professional, and patient the entire time. I wouldn't have found that person if I hadn't done those feeler out phone calls. So that's my advice to you. Get your documentation ready, be patient, feel some people out, and then lastly, as far as your other information, you're gonna need it eventually to submit it to MEPS, and it takes time to get it, so you might as well go and start trying now. It's not something you necessarily need for your first appointment. Sorry. So as far as the medical documentation that we know we're going to need as far as being trans people, go ahead and start getting it. Make those phone calls to wherever you had your surgery, whoever gave you your hormones, whoever you've been talking to as far as like mental health, a therapist that you needed to get a diagnosis from, etc. Go ahead and talk to those people about getting that stuff. It helps to have it the first time, but don't worry about having it, because again, you're not going to put your package together and submit it that first day. So those are my thoughts. Thank you very much for sending me your questions, and look forward to a video about MEPS and some videos about basic training. Thanks.